Hello.
Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Monday.
Beep, beep, beep.
How's everyone doing today? Oh, Mags, we got the kind of the pink memo going. Oh my God, how cute are those? I didn't even see your nails. Those are amazing.
It snowed here in DC this weekend. It was 22 degrees outside after a 70-degree day.
Ooh.
I'm just like mojoing the warm weather to come back.
Oh no. It's like a fluke. Glitch in the matrix.
Hopefully it will be warmer soon, but bright colors make me feel as though spring is coming.
Yes, I hear that. We've got some flowers. I'll pass that juju on. It's been kind of cold here. I mean, California is like the utmost great weather, but even so, climate change, all the real things happening. And so it's definitely like yesterday we went on a bike ride and I was like, oh, it's chilly today. Like it was definitely like I came back, my hands were a little bit numb as we were breezing through. I was like, yeah, not as warm as I thought it was.
Yeah. California cold.
No snow. If I never see snow again in my life, I'll be a happy camper.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
Beach baby. So
yeah. So happy there's no snow. Cool. Well, we are branching off a little bit on a subtopic from last week and the week before. We've kind of been hitting on this topic a little bit, but not diving deep into it. And today is the day.
Finding your why.
Yes.
So we talk a lot about and have been talking a lot about, like, what is a why? Why do I need this why? How is it useful? And the truth of the matter is that, the same person can do the same thing for two very different reasons. And that drastically impacts their experience of that action. So, right, like if we're just taking, let me give an example really quickly to like put this in the context. Like being really energetic when you enter a room, right? So if it feels, one reason you might do that is because you want people to like you. You want people to think that you're warm and inviting. You want people to think that you're a cool person. And so you're just always really energetic and on. And this why is like you're managing other people's perception of you, basically. But another why that you could do that is because like you really like generating energy in a room so that it lights people up, so that it lightens the mood a little bit. I know a lot, we often, before we actually start our lives, are talking about like kind of serious topics. And it's like, the world's a heavy place. Maybe you really enjoy bringing some lightness to such a heavy space. Maybe you like brightening somebody's day because that it's soothing. It's like a balm to the soul, right? It's the same behavior, but for two very different reasons. And your experience is going to be different. And this goes with like, exercise routines, right? It's like, if I'm exercising because I hate my body, I'm going to have a different outcome than if I'm exercising because I want to be strong, and being strong is my why. And this goes with like everything. Knowing your why is so, so important. So we're going to talk to you today about what the why is, how it actually takes you closer to achieving your goals, and some tips for figuring it out and articulating it so that you can use it to this point.
Yeah. And also it helps with, facing the challenges that arise, because it's not going to be smooth sailing the whole time. You're not going to hit the bullseye on the first try. And so what's really cool, and this is kind of one of those, golden nuggets for Maggie and I that connects our curriculums, which is why we connected so greatly and so quickly when we did, and creative freedom mindset, is because with rewriting limiting beliefs and all of these, fear of failure and overcoming shame and all of these things that Maggie does, the why is so important. You know what I mean? You have to kind of like come back to that root of what is it that you're working on, and what is it that what is your soul, what's happening there. And for me, it's same thing in my habits module and my habits method. The first thing is, what's the goal, which is, what is your why? And
Right.
so it connects anytime you're working with rewriting limiting beliefs, habits, all of these things that we do, it's always the first thing that comes into play. We always come back to that, which is why we've mentioned it in many past lives. And we're like, we need to dig into this deeper. So let's dig in, Mags.
Let's dig. So your why matters far more than like what you are doing. And that's because it anchors you into your purpose behind trying to achieve a certain outcome. And this is when we're talking about maintaining motivation, especially when things get really hard, when willpower runs out, when our plans don't,
Right.
go according to plan, or when we're not seeing results as quickly as we would like to see them. And that's a major one, when we're not seeing change happen overnight. Knowing why we are doing the work that we're doing allows us to be journey oriented rather than destination, accomplishment, result oriented.
Right. That's the identity change we were kind of talking about last week.
Yeah.
Like the identity change versus the outcome change. So you really want to like focus again, like Maggie said, the purpose, the passion, like what's the deeper rooted thing that you're working on here, instead of just, I want to look good for my friend's wedding, so I'm going to lose weight, right? It's like, no. Why don't you like do it as a healthier way to live, and it becomes your lifestyle, and then you'll look good for every wedding from here on out. And it becomes like this thing. And you'll also, there's the sustainability of it is much higher.
Right. Well, and also, so Carl Jung says, right, that you have to love the thing that you want to change. And so if you're changing, and we give this example a lot, but if you're thinking about wanting to change like your appearance or your body, you are not going to be able to create lasting change and like actually healthy, both psychologically, spiritually, physically change from a place of hatred of your body. And that doesn't mean that you need to love your body. You may need to move through a space of neutrality first, because a lot of us have been really programmed and conditioned to hate our bodies. And that can be a really hard thing to move through. But I know, especially for me, after 15 years of disordered eating and like orthorexia, like over exercising, it was very hard for me to generate a workout routine that felt healthy and supportive of like my strength. And it wasn't about me weighing 110 pounds. And so it's like, it took a lot of mental reframing for me to center in a new why that was supportive. And I needed that because guess what? I was not 22 anymore. I was like approaching 30 and like had gained from taking antidepressants, like about 50 pounds. And it took a while for me to reset my body and like my hormones and everything that was going on. It took a long time. So my method before had been like starve yourself and work out like 3 times a day. Well, that worked in the short term, but it didn't change who I was in the long term. And it negatively impacted my spirit and like my body. It was not healthy. And so recentering in a why this time, and really, as you mentioned, changing this identity piece, it's like, I am a person who is healthy. I'm a person who loves this body. A person who loves this body is not trying to lose weight because I want to look a certain way, or I want to starve myself, or I'm looking for fast results. Like a person who loves this body nourishes this body well, takes this body for a walk, takes this body on a run, right? So it's like really, and I needed that because it took me a year and a half to get back to a weight, certainly not my 110 or 120, which I was shooting for, but to 150, which is like my adult weight.
Right.
Is like comfortable for my body. That's like where I would seriously have to restrict and do some crazy shit to get lower than that. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah. And think about how your body's been there for you. Like I always tell people the same thing, I've had some clients, over the pandemic, they gained weight and all these different things. And they're like, oh my gosh, I just don't recognize myself anymore. I'm like, right. But again, I tell them the same thing. You cannot, lose weight from a place of hate. So, or get the perfect body or whatever it is that you consider the perfect body. So think about everything that your body has done for you up to this point. And especially with you, you're very, I love how open you are about your journey, and that, you've put it through a lot, but it's always been there for you. You're still alive and you're creating life now. you know, like some people who go through what you've been through, like it affects their fertility and it affects all these things, and your body was very quick to get pregnant and all of these different things, which is amazing because it didn't sabotage your future dreams, you know, to go through what you did, but also, you know, you have to kind of thank it for being there for you when you weren't there for it.
Right.
You know, kind of
it
thing.
Could have. It did not have to turn out, you know,
No, it
there
did
could have
not.
been a lot of long-term consequences.
Right.
And I think I do have a lot of gratitude for that. And
Yeah.
but it's like, even
but a lot of people go through that journey, I think is what
Right.
what I was meant. It wasn't just you, but a lot of people go through that type of journey where they kind of like yo-yo, or they've been through some, you know, like you said, you know, some disordered eating, things like that, or drug use or whatever it happens. There's some, you know, intense cases. And so, but that, you know, the fact that you can come out on the other side and get clean and get better and, you know, feel healthier and eat and all of these things is a whole, you know, I mean, your body was there for you during the tough times, knowing we're going to turn this around, you know?
Friend thinker.
Yeah.
No, and I think that's, again, I'm sharing this like personal example because it's like a lot of, I mean, some of the workouts that I do are exactly the same pre and post, right? Some of the dietary changes I made are similar, although my, you know, still very different. But like some of the actions I was like taking are the same, but the why behind it is different. And the why took me through not seeing the immediate results that I wanted to see, not seeing the kind of outward sort of validation that I had been getting before, which was what was driving a lot of my like negative behaviors. And it again reminded me like, I am not doing this for somebody else.
Right.
I'm doing this for me. And I needed that. And now I consider as a part of my identity, like I'm somebody who loves to work out. I love to like do silks. I love to be active. And that was not a part of my identity before. I hated it before because I was doing it as a tool to make me more palatable to society. And so it really is like finding out your why behind what it is that you're doing is going to change how you engage with really hard changes in your life. Like when you're trying to create new, more supportive, sustainable habits, if you are doing it from a place of hate or for somebody else, you are not going to have the longevity that you need in order to actually create change.
Right. Or validation or anything like that. This is kind of a weird metaphor, but I think it's, you know, a lot of people see this as, you know, especially during crazy times like this, you see a lot of celebrities come out and donate, you know, or they try to do some sort of like good deed, you know, with their money and all of that stuff. And a lot of people will have press on this, whether they want it or not, it's there. But there's a lot of things that come out later that's like, oh yeah, so-and-so was also part of that. They just didn't have any press on it because they didn't want any press on it. And so I think, you know, where that comes from, that stems from some people are doing it for the press. They're like, oh, I have to like jump on this because I'm connected to this particular, you know, humanitarian effort, and they want people to know. So this comes from this like validation. I'm a good person, you know, I'm a celebrity. I have all this money. I should be helping all of these things. There's all of these like, you know, requirements that they feel need to happen versus people who are doing just as much good behind the scenes that are doing it for themselves just because they feel like, listen, I align with this. This is what I feel I should be doing. And this is where I stand and this feels aligned. And they do it regardless of press or anything. And I think that for us, it's kind of the same when it comes to what it is you're trying to accomplish in your life. Are you doing it to get attention? Are you doing it to get validation from others that you are living a good lifestyle, right? Are you going to, like so many people, now we've got this whole, are you going to university or not? Right? So many people are like, oh my gosh, my parents, if I told them I wasn't going to school or I was quitting school, they would disown me. And it's like, but your parents already did their school journey. What is your journey? Why are you going to school? Are you doing this for your parents? Right? We see this in dance a lot too. A lot of these moms that put their kids in dance because they wanted to dance. And it's like, the kids are like, I don't know what I'm doing here. And I'm like, well, then why are you here? You know, but because my mom wants me to be here, you know? So I think a big part of that, like Maggie said, is, that what is your purpose? What is it? Like, let your voice be heard, and don't feel like, you may not figure it out right away. You may not be that, evolved yet in growth and personal development and all of that, because finding like, oh, I should be doing it for this reason, not this reason. You may not know that yet, but baby steps, and also know what maybe the reasons you shouldn't be doing it, right? Because you're going to fall off the wagon once you hit a bumpy road, and those reasons that are really not your whys, that are really the identity, the outcome pieces. Those are the things we kind of want to gear away from.
Right. And so what Kristen and I often do, like when clients come to us and they want to create new habits or maybe eliminate some other less supportive habits. Our question is why? Why do you want to do that? And that's literally, it's as simple as that, you guys. It like starts and stops with that. It's like, why? So this is, we could have actually just had like a 2-sentence training today.
Right. Well, it's an easy question. It's a difficult answer, because exactly. What do our clients mostly say when we say why?
There are a variety of reasons. Like, for example, like I want to wake up early. Why? Well, successful people wake up early.
Right.
Like things like,
red flag.
Do you have another example? Was there something that you were thinking of?
I have a lot of people say, I don't know. They have no idea. They just think it sounds good. Or I say, well, what kind of habits do you want to create? And then they almost are thinking of an answer that I want to hear.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Is that something you want? Or is that like, they're trying to think of like, what would a good student
habit be? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What would a good habit be? And I'm like, how does that relate to you? Is that something you want to do? The getting up early is a good one. I had a client that said, yeah, I want to get up early at this time, and I want to, drink a green juice, and I want to go for my workout. And I was like, you sound like an Instagram post, right? I've mentioned this in the past. And she's like, well, that's what I see. And I'm like, right. So what is it like? I think too often we desire what we see, thinking that's correct. This is the right way. This is the wrong way. When in reality, you're just seeing a highlight reel of everybody's life. And what is it that you want? It's very difficult for people to draw on a blank canvas. They already want something to be there, and they want to fill in the blanks with their own colors. And I'm like, but why don't you just draw the whole picture? What is it that you want, and why do you want it? Because your why, like you said, is going to be different from this person. Even though you may have the exact same morning routine, you're going to be doing it for a different reason.
Right. And that's like, I'm in a book club, and one of the people in the club was like talking about, I want to be waking up in the morning. It's just so hard for me to do. Like, I'm really having trouble sleeping the night before. And I was like, some people are not meant to wake up in the morning.
Right.
Like, and if you're fighting that, you're just going to have a lot of struggle. And she was like, no, when I wake up early in the morning, I feel I have more energy for the day. I I can see the difference. And I was like, okay, then this is that's your why, right? Because it gives me more energy.
You want to feel better.
Alive. Exactly. Not because I think successful people wake up early, or I can get more done, or I can be more hyper productive, right? So it's really the same thing that can be really supportive for one person can be really disempowering for another, which is why that's always where we start. It's like, what do you want and why do you want it, right? Because if you don't have a solid why, again, you're not going to have, it's harder to stay the course and to stay dedicated to the goal that you're trying to achieve and to the habit you're trying to create when you're not seeing results immediately and when things get hard.
Well, that's the thing. So going into, obviously starting, it's very important to know why you're doing something. Because you got to get that, you got to get yourself on the right path from day one. But if you're going into it with a why, like, well, successful people wake up in the morning, or I want to look good for someone's, wedding. So that's why I'm losing weight, not because I want to be healthy or whatever. You start hitting bumps in the road. You start plateauing. You maybe there wasn't a good game plan to begin with. So now you're just kind of like, faking it till you make it, kind of figuring it out along the way. And so what happens is it's so easy to drop off and say, well, I'll just find a dress that I fit into. And then the goal is never achieved. And so then people, again, this comes back to the resolutions and intentions in January, that people are always trying to, I want to do this for this reason. And usually that why is not their why. It's, it's a why that's attached to an exterior validation. And then come February, again, challenges, not a good game plan, all these things. And they get to a point where it's like, they start to negotiate with themselves, right? How can I make this work for me and not have to achieve the goal? Right? How can I, what is the word that I'm looking for? Like, I can't even think of it right now.
Now you're under pressure.
Well, I know. So no, but it's like they disclaimer it to themselves. They like make themselves feel good about like, I really don't need to look, I don't really need to lose 10 pounds. Maybe I just need to lose 5 pounds. Right. They start to negotiate with themselves of what it is that they want, the end result to be, because they start to realize it's too hard if they don't have a proper strategy and a proper why. Like if they are doing it for this, they're like, well, that person's not really going to care. Right. Or I don't need to be as successful as this person, so I can wake up a little bit later. Right. They start to negotiate, and then the goal is never really accomplished. So having this why, where it's like, this is your passion, this is what it is. It's another thing. Like when people say starting a business, right. And you start a business and everyone's like, that business is never going to take off. But in your heart that you are putting something out there that's going to be incredible, that's going to change lives, or that's going to do something amazing, or this is something you're just super passionate about. So you just, you power through. And people who have that strong conviction of that why, of why they're doing this and why they're starting, those are the businesses that always survive. And people look at them and they're like, how did that happen? It's like, because they didn't listen to all the naysayers and all the people around them. They're not doing it for you. They're doing it for them. And that's why they persevere. Yes.
So it's essential for like getting started, for knowing where you're going, for allowing like a center for you to come back to when things get hard, for reminding you why you're doing the work that you're doing. And because this, y'all, change is hard. It requires a lot of effort. And as like animals that we are, like, we avoid effort. We are trying to do, get as much from doing as little as possible. Like our minds and bodies are trying to conserve energy. So we have to fight against our biological systems to exert effort for these things and these changes that are really hard. That's why we have habits, is to downshift the amount of energy our brain has to spend thinking about something, right? So when we're trying to create a new one, we're asking a lot of ourselves, and we need a solid why to draw on. So that's one component. Another for the why is needing to sort of see, because we talk to a lot of people, right? It's like, I want to make $10,000 a month, or I want to make $20,000 a month. Why? Why do you want to do that? And, people will say like, I want to be a millionaire. Why? Why do you want that? Do you really need to have $1 million $1 bills? Is that, you just want to look at it? You just want to have it in your, what is it, the money that you want, or is it something else that's attached to the money? Is it what the money brings you that you want? And we've talked about this a lot too. And this is really helpful in terms of being able to give yourself things that you want that are not necessarily the very final end point that you are looking for. So like with money, what do people often want that we figure out in the end?
Well, they want freedom.
Yeah.
They want freedom. Yeah. They just want, money is a social construct that has been given value that represents that you don't have to work anymore, time freedom, and that you can go and travel and do whatever you want. And yeah, it all stems back to freedom.
And then you don't have to worry about bills are paid. You don't have to worry about anything like that. It's like just a total sense of security and freedom, right? So, okay.
Security. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Security and freedom, I think, are huge. And here's the reality, like, if you have a few $1,000s in your bank account, you're likely not going to have $1 million tomorrow. So how can you, if we're really getting at the why, it's not the $1 million, it's the freedom and the security that I want, then you can begin to find ways to incorporate freedom and security into your daily life. So this is, you know, the money, if you do not feel secure,
$1 million is not going to make you feel
not going to fix that.
You're going to need more. It's always, that's where Maggie's getting with this, is that it's, if you don't feel free and secure right now with $1,000 in your bank account, $1 million is not going to do that, because now you're going to start to create a bigger lifestyle. And now your ratio of how you live, you know, your cost of living to what you have is going to keep rising, and you're going to constantly be moving the bar. So now you're going to feel like I need $100 million to feel secure and safe and free. And I need $1 billion, and I need this, and it constantly keeps growing. And as we've known from business coaches, entrepreneurs, we always have that hunger for more anyway. So if you, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you, Mags, but of like the freedom and the security factor of that is so crucial to find that within yourself, instead of looking towards a monetary value to provide that for you.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, like, want to be very clear, like the research shows that, of course, if you're living in poverty and you only have $1,000 that you're making a month, it's going to be very hard for you to feel secure and free if you are living in absolute poverty like that. And so, but they actually show that quality of life increases up to like $75,000, and that's it. After $75,000, less than $100,000 a year, you guys, it plateaus and then it starts to drop again. So like, it's just, you know, up into a certain point, yes, when you have your needs, your healthcare, your housing, your food, your children taken care of, yes, up into a certain point, quality of life does increase, but that point is far lower than I ever thought it was.
Yeah.
Than I think anybody else thinks it is. And so it really is like, being able to give yourself in small ways those things that you are looking for and the goals that you are reaching for is a really helpful tool to, you know, they're stepping stones to get you to where you want to be and to allow you to enjoy in fullness the outcome of the work that you're doing too. Because if we think, again, we talk about this a lot, right? When we want to accomplish something and we actually get there, how often does it feel as good as we thought it was going to feel? And when we put too much emphasis, when we think, I want to have like a 6K month, or I want to sign 10 clients this month. And we think like, that's going to show that I'm a great coach, that people are dying to work with me. It's going to validate, you know, the work that I do. And, you know, we're putting all this emphasis on these external sources. Then when it actually happens, do we actually feel validated? Do we say, oh, now I know I'm a good coach? Like, I can't think that's never happened, you know, like just because of some weird external goal that I've set, like when we're focusing on some sort of validation outside of ourselves, it doesn't matter what we accomplish. It's not going to make us feel like we want to.
Right. And so I was going to add that as well, is like, you know, we talked about the beginning, the middle, and the end, you know, so the beginning being like really jumpstarting you, giving you that motivation and fighting through that willpower, because it will die off, right? To be able to have your why. In the middle, it's all the challenges, the bumps, the lack of strategy. If you don't have it, that's going to help you persevere and get through it. But at the end, right, there's an end, and say you accomplish the goal and then you go to the wedding and nobody cares. Nobody compliments your weight loss. How unfulfilling is that, right? Because your why was to do it for Aunt Terry, who is going to tell you that blah, 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 blah. And it's like, and nobody even notices. Or you get up and, you know, every successful person wakes up early in the morning. You start getting up early in the morning and you're not successful yet, what you deem successful, right? So then all of a sudden you're like, why am I doing this? Right? How many times have you said that? Why am I even doing this? And, you know, you're going to work every single day because you think, if I am the best person at work, then I'm going to be the first one to get a raise and a promotion. And then 3 years, 5 years later, you still don't have that promotion. You're like, why am I even doing this? Right? You should be wanting to go to work for a completely different reason, not just to get promoted. Right. So that end result, if you end up seeking internal validation and having your why be for you, for your better health, for your mental awareness, all of these things that are internal things that we want our why to be. At the end of the day, everyone's why should end up being around something similar of like the greater good for what it is that I can do for me, so that then if you're good and your glass is full, then you can help more people. That's the idea, is that if everybody focuses on watering their grass, then everybody's grass will be watered. Right. And then we can start to help each other if we need it. But then that validation at the end and is so much more rewarding, right, than it is if you're expecting somebody else to compliment you or expecting some result that somebody else has power over, like a promotion or what you deem success or whatever that is. You will be so much more fulfilled because you did it for you. And so many other unexpected things will come from that the universe will open these doors to once it's you fulfilling you instead of you seeking external. I think that's the biggest reason to have a good why, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, you're no longer with a good solid why that is you centered. You are no longer outsourcing the credentials of your own success, right? So if I'm, again, like losing weight for somebody else, or waiting to make a certain amount of money because I want to be, I want somebody to celebrate me. If I'm doing it for other people, then my success relies solely on their response and acknowledgement of what I have done, just like you were saying. And so if instead my why is something that is me, inner focus, that I get to decide, then that power is back in my hands to say, when, how do I feel and when do I feel that I have experienced success on this path that I'm leading here?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think we're squashing the concept of like, all about me is selfish and all that stuff. I think as the generations go on, like that's just not even a conversation we should be having anymore. Because like all this self-care is not selfish, all this stuff, but this isn't even just self-care. This is like your purpose, why you wake up in the morning, why you're doing something, why you're working so hard. All of these different things. A lot of parents, they work hard so they can provide a better life for their children. That's a good why, it is, but it's also good to make sure that you're good, because if you're not good, your kids won't be good. So making sure that you're filling your glass. And that's a big part of our academy, is talking about, making sure that your glass is full or mostly full so that you can start pouring into others, because if you're pouring from an empty glass, there's nothing to give. And that's a very obvious, like, duh, but so many people don't do that. And then they're wondering why they're burnt out and why they're living in survival mode. It's like, you don't need to be living in survival mode. Just fill your glass first instead of trying to fill everybody else's.
Yeah.
You're pouring from an empty pitcher. Like, it's obvious why you're burnt out, And so if you come back and, like, I love what you said, that you make your why you centered, whatever that is, whatever that reason is, that starts with you, because you can only help people from you. That's all you have. You're your only tool in this world. So if you're not focusing on your better health, your mental, physical, better awareness and overall health and wellness, how are you going to do any good in this world for anybody else, including your kids or your spouse or whatever that,
Certainly not sustainably.
No,
right?
Absolutely not. Yeah.
And again, you can think of a million examples of how, like, being self-sacrificing has served and helped others, but not sustainably. Right. Because you can't sustainably give if you're not sustainably replenishing yourself.
That's it.
And it's, a lot of your why can be, so it's not to say that it can't be, like, impact oriented, right? You can't, like, my why for creating this course is to show other people a different way to live so that they can experience the kind of liberation of life that I have experienced, right? Like that's why we created this together, is to show people a pathway to freedom. That is a why there. I'm not creating this because I want, and the difference here is that like, I can see the people who are taking this course are greatly impacted. Yeah. I am thanked daily for the coursework, you know, like we both are, right? And that's like, I can see that it's being impactful. I can see how it is working through them. And that makes me feel just lit up by the work that I'm doing and re-inspires me, versus like needing to be told how smart I am, which is something, you know, I do. That's an old like validation cue of mine, right? Or needing to be told how perfect the curriculum is, or like how, you know, like these smaller, like I need to be viewed as this, as the creator of this, right? I don't need to be really viewed as the creator of this.
Right.
This is a tool for people to use as a pathway to freedom. I don't necessarily need to be my why is not being validated as the creator. It is in creating a pathway to freedom for people.
Right. It's sharing the knowledge.
Exactly.
Instead of being like awarded for the information.
And that's the difference. That's why I kept doing it when it got really hard, when I'm like, you know, super pregnant and like feeling really sick every day and like struggling to really find the energy to pour into this like baby. And it was the why, because we knew that it's transformative.
Right.
We've done the work and it's transformative.
We said that all the time when we were creating it too. Curriculum got hard, all these different things, these pieces. And we were like, it's fine because this is going to help so many people. Like we kept repeating that. And that helped so much for us to get through it. And we knew at the end that it was going to be so rewarding to be able to have this finally be live. And that's exactly what it has been. So.
And we also changed like the whole ending of the whole last 6 modules of our curriculum changed, because it's like, this needs to be, how can this be even more helpful? How can this be even more impactful and service driven? Like, even though it was harder to like now, you know, it's just, that was the why.
We weren't going to get right. We weren't going to just phone it in just because we wanted to get it done. That was not the goal. And that didn't align with our why, because if it didn't transform and it didn't help people, then what was the purpose of doing it? And for us, it had to transform. And so that was our constant come back to, is like, if we needed to make a decision and we didn't know which way to go, is this one going to be more transformative, or is this one? And whichever one that was, that's the direction we went. And that sometimes was the harder choice for us because we had more work to do, but it was well worth it to do that. So,
and that's, I just want to bring that, because that doesn't seem necessarily me focused, me centered,
right?
But my value is providing impact to this world. My value is being an educator and sharing all the amazing things that I have learned with other people. Like that is me centered. That is not wanting validation from other people telling me how smart I am and how good I am at making curriculum. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that is me centered. It is an expression of my value to provide transformative content that, like, again, is a pathway to freedom. So it's not necessarily going to be like, it can look like the impact that you want to make, but the impact has to be different than the outcome. It has to be, you know, it has to be different than the validation, which can be sort of like in kind of a gray space, but yeah,
definitely. All right. Well, I hope that helps you guys to, you know, dig a little bit deeper to find that why. And when you think, why am I doing this? Think even more, like dig even deeper and be like, is that my why? And you'll know when challenges start to arise, you know, when things start to hit, if you're going to, you know, if that is the thing that's pulling you forward, or if that's the thing that now is forcing you to negotiate your end result. You'll know quickly.
Find your inner toddler, right? Why?
Right.
Why? Keep asking it.
That's cute.
And just keep, you know, again, it's likely not going to be always the first answer that pops into your mind.
Right.
Maybe a deeper why that is going to be more profound, more driving for you. So just keep asking the question.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's good. Awesome. Well, have a wonderful week, everyone, as always, and we will see you next week.
Bye.